Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So once again we have to update our tier list, and that is exactly what I have done. However, this is going to be the last version of this tier list that you see in this format. I will separate these in several subcategories, and that is going to happen hopefully over the course of next month, where I do want to make specific tier lists for battlegrounds and general game, and also specifically kind of like defensive tier list as well, and offensive. So we'll see exactly how it looks like, but I definitely do want to kind of keep the battlegrounds to one side, because obviously the metas there change and there are some people who absolutely do not care about it. So I want to have one general tier list about everything in the game, including battlegrounds, and then one specifically for battlegrounds, and then also defensive versions of them. Ideally, I'm gonna let you guys know as soon as they are done, and obviously I'm going to cover that in the video. However, for time being, it is very important to point out that this list is a mixture of my personal view of the game and currently game relevance and trends. Please do not use this list as a point of argument, but much more of as a food for thought. Each summoner has different needs and preferences that far outweigh the importance of this or any other list. Rank up champions that will help you get where you are trying to go, and do not blindly follow any of these lists. That is to say, if you need some champions that are good for AQ attack, rank up champions, rank up champions that help you do your parts easier. If you need to make your alliance war defense stronger, rank up champions for your alliance war defense. If you need champions for battlegrounds, well, rank up champions for battlegrounds. Do not care about any of this list when you make the decisions. You should always have goal-orientated rank ups, in my opinion. As in, for instance, if you're newer to the game, you're struggling to do a variant, take up a 5-star champion or a 6-star champion that is going to help you explore that variant, because you're going to get new rank up materials, and then you're going to be, again, in a position to rank up something else. It's much better than to rank up some champions that somebody says that are good, right? That being said, it's also important to remember that this is a game, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with ranking up champions that you enjoy playing flat out. I do that all the time. I have ranked up several champions that I personally, put lower on the tier list for one reason or another. Often it is for defensive purposes. Occasionally it is just because I enjoy using those champions. There's nothing wrong with that. We do have one important move here as well. I think. Oh, okay, I'm gonna save. Okay, now we have several important moves, so let's start breaking them down. First and foremost, champions that are out as 6 stars are on this list. If champion does not exist as a 6 star, they have their own special tiny little list here. It is always interesting to see how many people do not watch this part of the video, I suppose. Additionally to that, let's break down the tiers. So top of the game means, in my opinion, the best of the best. The champions that are amazing in virtually every game mode, or in majority of the game modes. And those are the go-to champions. Those are the most desired champions in the game. Champions that everybody immediately wants to rank up and use, and basically are in all 4. And whenever you pull them, it's a good day for your account. Meta stands for most effective tactics available. In this game and many others, it means the things that are more popular. It means the things that people use on daily general basis as most efficient way to get their tasks done, to get their quests done, to get their alliance quest done, war, so on and so forth. These are champions that have well established themselves in the game as very, very good at what they do. Typically, these champions also, unlike top of the game champions, will have some game modes that they're not particularly great at. And you can definitely notice that. For instance, we have Corvus Glaive, who's falling down, obviously, but, you're not going to use him for long-form content ever. We have, for instance, Cable, who cannot be used in battlegrounds and any other content where you just need a solo champion, where you can't bring in a team that Apocalypse supports him. We have Professor X, who is not particularly great for battlegrounds or kind of quick questing, and so on and so forth. And that is kind of like common characteristic. These champions are very effective, very amazing. It's just not everywhere. Frequently useful, just as the name implies. Champions are amazing. Absolutely nothing ranking these champions up. Many champions' personal favorites are in here. It's also champions that are kind of like on the grasp of meta, but often may end up being, you know, just a bit short in terms of popularity or people's opinion on them, or they often are second or third best options for specific things, or the things that they are the best at just do not occur particularly frequently. Useful, again, perfectly fine champions that can find use in the game, and there are situations where they will do exceptionally well, but they typically are fairly conditional, and again, more often than not, there will be options that do as good of a job or better, but are, you know, more capable in more aspects of the game. Occasionally useful, that is when our kind of tryhards come from. Many of these champions are either a bit too one-dimensional or somewhat outdated, or just maybe not effective enough even in the things that they should be good at. You know, Jubilee with 97 abilities, but none of them be particularly potent compared to their counterparts. You know, champions like Rogue, who could be amazing with tiny little tweaks, is still very fascinating champions. So on and so forth. These are champions, again, that can get the job done. And there's absolutely nothing wrong in enjoying these champions, ranking these champions, using these champions, because quite often they are just about good enough. And then we have useless, borderline unplayable, hashtag insignificant. These are the champions that are either flops or just severely outdated champions that majority, that vast majority of the summoner base would not want to invest catalysts in. There are a couple of champions that might have specific purposes, like I have even Super Scroll ranked, because, you know, occasionally in specific circumstances he can be annoying defender, so on and so forth, but typically these are the champions that nobody is happy to get or pull, basically. Right, that being said, the changes, and there are quite a few changes. I'm going to start with perhaps the more controversial change. I have always said that there will be limited amount of champions in top of the game. At the moment, there are 23 champions. I definitely do not want this to bulk up more than like 25. So I do move champions in, and recently I moved Galen and Hulkling as top of the game champions. This week, I moved in Rintra as being one of the top of the game champions, as well as Scorpion. So we do have two new additions that I do think are amazing for a ton of content, and that has been proven. We have Rintra, obviously wreaking havoc on battlegrounds. Consistent Alliance War defender. We're seeing Rintra used for more and more in questing and Alliance War attack as well. Then we have Scorpion, who is basically similar. He's definitely put in his work offensively with his ability to block unblockable special attacks when opponents are taunted, his high damage output, his power stings, his versatility, and we see them pretty much everywhere in the game. So I do think both Rintra and Scorpion has earned the top of the game designations. At the same time, and I really do like these champions, and don't get this demotion wrong in any capacity. I personally think these are still amazing champions, obviously, because only amazing champions can get it to meta tier. But I do think that decrease in Diablo and Black Widow Clairvoyant has been quite noticeable. In both of these cases, the champions are amazing. They're just kind of like... what's the best way to put it? Lack a bit in situations where there are other counterparts that are flying ahead. For instance, if we're looking specifically for Black Widow Clairvoyant, we can see that Rintra and Tigra and the Hood is basically taking away Black Widow's playtime. She definitely has decreased in her usage in Alliance War. She definitely has decreased in her usage in, let's say, Battlegrounds. Hood, Longshot, Rintra, Tigra are way more popular in those game modes. And obviously she's still amazing. Obviously she's crazy good rank up. But I don't think that at this point in time she's at top of the game. And that is the point of these lists, because these things change over time. For instance, Captain America Infinity War a couple of years ago would have been unquestionably up here. But now I'm debating to put him down to frequently useful, because just times change. Needs change, matchups change, content changes, and some champions get more popular and some champions become less popular. And I do think that Diablo and Black Widow Clairvoyant has taken a step back. in recent months. So I know that there are going to be a lot of people unhappy with this, but that is how I feel. And again, not everybody can be the winner. Not everybody can be on top of the game. I think a lot of people would enjoy that, but also the reason why a lot of people watch my tier list is because I am often fairly harsh, fairly ruthless, and when it comes down to it, ultimately not everybody can be the best. And I don't think Black Widow, Clairvoyant, and Diablo now overall are the best, with obvious caveats that if you're running Liquid Courage Double Edge Masteries, then potentially for you specifically at those points, they could. Right, that being said, there are no other changes here. We have Rintra and Scorpion as new top of the game. And then we have Black Widow, Clairvoyant, and Diablo moved down to meta. Moving up to meta, now is going to be the Hood and Wiccan. Again, Hood's usage has definitely increased across the board. We can see him in Battlegrounds, we can see him in Alliance War, we can see him in much more content being used as people are getting more comfortable with using him. And similar thing is happening with Wiccan, where Wiccan obviously at the moment is the perfect answer for the Alliance War most frequent tier 1 boss, so that automatically kind of propels. But with that also comes fact that more and more people are ranking him up, especially with the release of new 6-star feature crystal. More and more people have him, they're experimenting with him, and therefore also using him for different situations, whether it be that Battlegrounds or whether it be that questing situations or pretty much anything else. Other than that, I did not change anything here for mutants and cosmics. I think there were slight changes for science, and I did move up Titania to meta, which is again a very similar scenario where she's quite new, but now that many more people have her, there are way more ranked up Titanias than there were a month ago, and it is quite clear that she is in fact being used for many different situations. Again, rising to popularity in Battlegrounds, rising to popularity in Alliance War, rising to popularity in questing, and I do think that this is at the moment very solid placement for her. Who knows if she will stay there, or maybe the usage of that will decline. Another champion that seems to have found its groove, especially right now with Rich Get Richer meta in Battlegrounds, and that being the meta for the entire month for friendlies and tournaments, and obviously relatively high prestige. Some excellent gameplay videos from Bittersteel, which I plan to showcase in near future on the channel. Valkyrie is definitely seeing quite a fast and dramatic rise to, well, front lines of MCOC. So I do think she belongs there at this point. Right, with that, I was quite happy with the rest of the Cosmic list. I'm very happy that Gore is finally getting some more attention, and some people can definitely justify his placement right here, as especially as an offensive option as well. I did not change much here. I did move, I think, Juggernaut to frequently, well, he's frequently useful. I'm thinking of putting him in meta. I'm not gonna lie. I have a rank for Juggernaut. With this one, I'm biased, but I do think he's bonkers, and he's bonkers good. We'll see. We'll give it another month before I push him up, but I do think that Juggy is a very, very fearsome opponent. One science champion that did receive a demotion is Immortal Hulk. I do genuinely feel that he has fallen off in terms of his, presence and visibility in the game. Even though I do still obviously believe that he's an amazing champion, at the same time, meta has to be, widespread. Meta champions have to be unanimously kind of like loved and admired. And Immortal Hulk just isn't there at the moment in the game. If the content calls for him, obviously he's amazing, but the problem is that current content, current game modes do not necessarily work extremely well with him. And then we still have Spot here. The problem with Spot, obviously, is that very few people have him. I do fully expect Spot to go up in rankings, without a doubt. He will go up in rankings. Just, we need to, again, wait for his wider release, and then see what's happening there. Other than that, I don't think there's much change here yet. Black Cat is another one that's worthy of a debate, perhaps of going up, but I'll leave that there for now. Let me know what you guys think. And there were no major changes there. I think I moved Mordo a tier up, because again, he's one of those champions that seems to be doing in more and more work, often primarily defensively, but still no change for Ant-Man. Ever since his buff, everything surrounding Ant-Man basically has gone quiet. Atuma and Shuri as the new champions. I probably should have started with this, but both of them, what's the best way to put it, are excellently unremarkable. Both of them do, at the very least, at the moment, seem like defensively focused champions. Both of them seem subpar offensively in terms of damage. They do have a lot of utility, but in many cases, it doesn't matter how much utility you have. What matters is how well it works when you need it, and you know how well the champion does in the fights where you would need that utility. And how feeling that Atuma and Shuri both are going to be those champions where if you have 3 different options of potentially doing like a problematic fight, you would pick Atuma and Shuri last because you don't want to do that fight for 20 minutes. So who knows? Both of them are, again, just like Spot, very new, but I definitely do not get anywhere near as good of an impression of Atuma or Shuri. I'll move Rocket Dragoon up for now here as well. I do think his rework was fine. I do think in near future we will see more of him, and at which point we're going to move him up. I do think that Kabam could have done slightly better job with his shield mechanic. I think there would be absolutely nothing wrong in letting him use it for free or letting him have it at the beginning of the fight. So who knows? Otherwise, he's just very, very squishy. But we'll see how he does. There aren't major changes. I did graduate Nova to occasionally useful because I was feeling sorry for Nova. And that is just about it here. As I said, I will try to create a tier list specifically for battlegrounds, where I will kind of put champion distribution. I feel like I will try to do one tier list for battlegrounds, but next to the champions I will try to put kind of like a designation of where they lie, where basically the 0% is, you know, 100% defensive and 100% is 100% offensive. So a perfect two-way champion would be like 50-50, but we'll see about that. How I bring that to light, because I do think that a lot of people need to find a distinction. At the same time, this is pretty much it. That is the November update. Sorry it was quite late because a lot of things were happening and we got our hands on Atuma quite late as well this month. But here we are. Link to the list in the video description, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. See ya! Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the